Well, Paris is commemorating 1 year since it hosted the Olympic and Paralympic Games. The giant golden orb is back floating in the sky above the Tuileries, with flames suspended underneath. And this Saturday, a parade of canoes, kayaks and paddleboards will make their way down the same Seine that saw a very soggy parade of athletes 1 year ago. Kirsty Coventry, the new International Olympic Committee president, and her predecessor Thomas Bach will pay visit to one of the 3 spots for swimming in the Seine, which opened at the start of the month. It's doubtful they'll go for a dip, with it closed since the start of the week because of bad weather. They'll make their way then to La Courneuve, where the Olympic rings have been put up, and there will be a concert. Well, I'm delighted now to be joined by Dikaia Chatziefstathiou, Professor of Applied Olympic Studies at Canterbury Christ Church University. Thanks for joining us. So let's talk Olympic legacy, right? It's one of the reasons that countries give when they bid for the Games, but it's also quite difficult for us to distinguish what's real legacy and what's window dressing and politics. I guess that's where you come in. How's Paris doing on its legacy so far?
Well, now 1 year after the Olympics, we are really starting to see what legacy means and what remains to be built, not in terms of buildings, but in terms of soft legacy, as we call it. So it was a Games with high ambition to be sustainable, to be inclusive, and really deeply tied to the future of the city. So we do see already some of these signs. We can say in terms of sustainability, Paris made major strides. 95% of the venues were existing or temporary. The Athletes' Village now is becoming housing for 6,000 people. And there is renewable energy. And as you mentioned already, the Seine cleanup is really powerful urban symbol with the first Olympic swim that actually occurred just a few weeks ago on the 5th of July, 2025. So we already see those aspects. We see also social and urban impact as well. We see that there were volunteers, over 45,000 volunteers, and the program Tour des Airs reached out 3,000 towns. So all these volunteers is a human capital, is a soft legacy that they engage with the Olympics. And a lot of these communities were underrepresented. And we can also see in terms of sport development, there was a big investment in local facilities in terms of sport. And again, we can see some legacy already there that we see, for example, facilities like Le Prisme, designed for accessibility and inclusion, now is fully operational, promoting sports participation for people with disabilities. I would say the key question now is, can this momentum be sustained without the Olympic spotlight? It is too early to tell. We need a longer time, but the signs are good so far.
Well, I think some in the French press might disagree when they see what's been cut from the budget this year. 300 million euros for sports has been cut. That's 18%, comes on top of a 14% cut on the sports budget last year. How's that for legacy?
Yes, we can see this kind of inconsistencies in terms of the cut of the budget, especially after a mega event. There are a lot of financial constraints. There are benefits, but there are also like costs. And unfortunately, although we do think that mega event like the Olympics will have a direct effect on increasing participation, increasing the income invested on sport, that's not necessarily the case. And increasing physical participation is a long-term strategy. It needs the funding, but it also needs to leverage a sporting strategy. And we see this in every Olympics. There are always complaints, there are always difficult discussions to be had. And yes, this is not something that is promising. We can say that the hard legacies are there, the buildings are there, but nothing will materialize if it doesn't have the appropriate strategy. And we did do a research in relation to this. Our university, we did a study that was a systematic review that we saw that there was really, without a systematic good strategy to leverage the benefits of the Olympic Games, there is no increase of physical activity. The state usually, one of the first things to do is actually cut down budget in relation to sport. And this is not something that is desired, but it takes much more than just the buildings, and it takes much more than just also the budget. It takes a more holistic leveraging strategy.
Yeah, so for the long term, not looking great on that front in terms of sports economics, but perhaps better than other Olympics in the past?
There are always, every Olympics have their own barriers, they have own criticisms. And as I said, we had similar in London. I am from Greece, a lot of criticism in relation to Athens, also Athens 2004 Olympics. But I would say it is a bit early to say in terms of the long-term benefits of the Olympics, but definitely going down the route of cutting the budget is not a good step.
Right.
Having the buildings is a good step. Operational buildings are good steps. But we need also a long-term plan. And yes, there were criticism, as I said, and problems with the previous Olympics as well. It has never been a smooth road after the Games.
Yeah.
Maybe some occasions in the past, but it was not about the increase of physical activity. That's the key. We think that the Olympic Games have a magic bullet and then we just have everybody doing sport. No, this doesn't happen. That's not the case. It can have festival effect, that there is community engagement, people wanting to participate in community projects, different types of legacies. But in terms of physical activity and sport, it's not just to have the Olympic Games. We need so much more to be in place. And that is in every Olympics in the past as well.
And we can see here live pictures of Kirsty Coventry walking down the banks of the Seine. She's probably not about to have a dip in the Seine. She's looking a bit too smartly dressed for that, I would wager. I've had a dip. It's, there are some suspect things floating along the water, but other than that, it's a pleasant experience. Let's talk about the cultural impact then, both in France and internationally, because this is obviously a year to the day since we had that opening ceremony. The French press were absolutely rapturous and actually went so far as to declare it a worldwide success. But actually, if you looked at the international papers, the world received it with more, a fair bit of criticism as well, which went largely unheard in France. Was this another example of kind of the French looking inwards and doing something for themselves to enjoy, more so for the world to enjoy? And what impact might this have culturally for France in the long term?
Do you mean in relation to Paris 2024?
Yeah, in terms of, it's a huge cultural event and will mark people's impression of France for the coming years. So do you see the ceremony surrounding the Games as successful from a cultural soft power point of view or not?
Yes, well, again, something that the press always likes to emphasize some of the difficult parts of Olympic Games or challenging parts. And the opening ceremony and the closing ceremony, I would say more the opening ceremony than the closing ceremony, was quite brave, was bold, I would say, that could go either way. It could either unite or divide. There were lots of cultural narratives in there that are at the forefront at the moment of a cultural discussion and ideological discussion that takes place within and outside also the Olympic movement. So the opening ceremony was not an easy cultural product to be digested and consumed. And that's why it raised all these controversies. But these controversies exist there, and I think it gave the opportunity to lever these discussions, gave a platform for all these voices to be heard, the voices that they were against those narratives, that they were in favor of these narratives. And now Kirsty Coventry is in this position to give these voices a kind of a common shared consent platform.
Yeah, not easy. How do you think her approach is going to differ to that of Thomas Bach?
would say that Kirsty Coventry is an experienced leader and an experienced leader from within the IOC. She's young, she's a female, she's an African, she's an Olympic medalist, a super Olympian with so many successes, and has witnessed the Olympic movement from within as an athlete, as a senior administrator. And she sat on all these executive boards and meetings next to Thomas Bach. So she has witnessed all these complications, complex processes, and I'm sure that she will really respond well to those challenges. She is a listener and she's experienced. And from what she has shown us so far and from her statements is that she's fully aware of all the layers of politics that are weaved into the fabric of the Olympic Games right now and the Paralympics, although she's not in the Paralympics, but it's a whole ecosystem that is weaved into state politics and gender politics.
Yeah, and also, these issues weaved into the very, this cocktail weaved into the very history of the Olympics. Let me bring you back to Pierre Coubertin. You're a world expert in him, the founder of the modern Olympics. You, I believe, received a prize from the IOC for your work on him. Now, he's complex to say the least, condemned more recently for fascist, colonialist, sexist remarks, as they're seen now. Was Paris right to promote him as much as they did?
Yes, we need to be very careful not to fall into the trap of anachronism, because if we go into judging and criticizing leaders of the past with the regimes we have today, this is going to be unfair. Coubertin was a visionary. Coubertin was a peacemaker. He started his project made out of a military and imperialistic I would say, construct. He was part of imperialism. However, he also had good intentions. He really saw beyond those politics and of imperialism. And he wanted to unite nations. He wanted to promote sport beyond and above inequalities, even though the first writings were very much colored with this narrative of imperialism, that he was very much part of it. But if we see and read, I have read a lot of his correspondence and a lot of his beliefs, and we saw that he absorbed those changes. And although in the beginning he was more kind of mirroring colonialism and imperialism, he was a very clever man to quickly understand how workers' Olympics were a threat, how women's Olympics were a threat, how peripheral colonial games that they were taking place in Africa or Asia could potentially threaten the movement. And either if he did this ideologically and was a genuine ideological shift, or he did this as an excellent sport diplomat, that he wanted to safeguard the Olympic Games and his vision from external threats, he did this well.
Professor Chatziefstathiou, I'm so sorry to cut you out there, but I'm afraid we've run out of time. Thank you so much for your fascinating insight. Of course, we could talk about this for hours and hope to speak to you again soon. Thanks for insight there and for speaking to France 24. Pierre de Coubertin was obviously a fan of cricket as well, and that will be included in the next Olympics. So cricket fans, look out for that. Stay tuned.